All right, I think we are live. Okay, well, for those attending, thanks for attending. Not sure there's anyone here yet, but that's okay. If you build it, they will come, as they say. I'll just do a little quick post on the old blinkers. Pretty crazy. All right, here we go. Wrap it out. So let's get started. If you haven't seen Giraffe before, Giraffe is a platform for thinking about physical space. And one of my favorite customers in Atlanta described Giraffe as a thinking tool. And I think that's a perfect description for what Giraffe is. So we're going to spend most of this YouTube live session thinking about a particular site. I'm not going to spend heaps of time talking to the different functionality of Giraffe. We can get that through other videos. This is going to be all about a particular site. Now, let's get cracking. So you can see my portfolio here. I live in Florida. I have a particular fondness for this part of the world. And so we're going to just have a look at a few things. But you can see I've got projects all over the country, and these are all dummy projects. And I have them in a table down here. So very nice. All right. Now, let's just spend a minute to talk about Orlando as a whole. And I-4 really is the interstate that cuts Orlando in two. And then Colonial is the other sort of dividing line. So if you think about Orlando, you typically think of it in quadrants, sort of the College Park, Fairview Shores type area, or up, down, OBT. Then you have the sort of Winter Park, affluent suburbs up here on the top right. You have Thornton Park, which is like inner city, a lot of cool retail happening around here. And then, also out here is really a sort of revitalized area heading down into Disney. Now, what we're going to look at, though, is the Mills 50 district. And the reason we're looking at the Mills 50 district is because there is so much cool retail that's come in here in the last few years. And my thesis is that great retail attracts people who want to live there, and therefore we should build homes and houses there. And as we zoom through the different kind of product that already exists, we won't spend heaps of time on it. You'll see that there's quite a lot of possibility on this site or in this area. It's quite underdeveloped. And so it's to me, it's a no-brainer, assuming we can make the financials work out based on what we think we can get out of the city. So if we're so this is our site down here. You can see I've already done a little bit on it, but we're going to start from scratch. Let's talk about the neighborhood very quickly. So Colonial is a big thoroughfare. It goes all the way out to the beach, Highway 50. Mills is this strip of retail that's just getting cooler and cooler. There's a bunch of live music venues up here. There's a plant-based burger shop that's 10 out of 10. There's a really cool Korean chicken restaurant down here somewhere. There's probably 15 places that are worth eating out, and then some that are really quite incredible. So Edo Boy over here, this little sushi restaurant that's just south of our site, is this tiny little standing room only sushi bar. And man, it's awesome. You'll spend a pretty penny there, but it's on the Michelin guide. It's a very, very, very good restaurant run by the Domu crowd. Domu are, If you live in Orlando, you'll know the Domu crowd. Incredible. And then over here this is like a commercial building. Actually, it has sort of 2 or 3 levels of commercial on top, and then underneath is retail. Lazy Moon Pizza on this side, and Lineage Coffee on this side. And Lineage has become, a real cultural icon within the Orlando market as well. Toro Toro over here, so great bars. There's a few bars along here that are really good nightlife. So my theory is this site up here is probably a great site. So let me tell you how I arrived at that. I'm going to turn off the portfolio because we don't want to see that at this point. So I'm just going to flick that off. And let's turn on regrid. Regrids are a parcel layer, and parcels are obviously the fundamental building block for real estate investments. They are the thing that we buy and sell, the dirt underneath the asset. And when I turn that on, you can see, I've got parcels for the whole of Orlando, and they're colored by their zoning subtype. Those parcels, just for the record, shout out to Regrid, incredible app and incredible data set. It covers the whole of the US. I think they're the only parcel provider that's achieved 100% coverage. Beats me how you figure out that you've got 100% coverage, but let's assume that that's true. Even if it's not true, they're still by far the superior parcel provider in the US. We really like working with them. They're a wonderful team, and their product is 10 out of 10. So I want to use the Giraffe tools to look at this data set. Okay. And if my theory is that this is a buzzing retail strip, people want to be here, and down here has got great nightlife, more pubs, more restaurants. I think even just off Mills here, one of these is also on the Michelin guide, maybe that guy right there. So tons of really good food and beverage. Then somewhere in this area is probably a site to buy and turn into a multifamily development. That's a relatively sound thesis, I would think. So what I want to do is just have a quick look through the zone and just try and see if it's favorable to us or not. And I don't want to waste tons of hours. I don't want to call anybody yet. I just want to start testing my thesis. So we'll come and have a look at the first spot, which is Lineage. So the coffee shop and the commercial tower that I mentioned. It's mostly a car park, but let's just click on it. And I'll turn the satellite on too, so we can see what's happening there. And when I click on it, I get tons of useful information. And what's curious to me is that the zoning is low density residential, and yet it's all commercial. So there's obviously a legacy building here, and shows you a little bit about the conflict between business interest and zoning and future land use, but that's a discussion for another time. But what's helpful is I can start to just sort of piece through who the owners are for these sites. So I can see this one's owned by an LLC called 1011 East Colonial. And obviously I'm not interested in buying this site. Though a multifamily development with a podium and embedded retail on it would be legendary, but probably out of our budget. So let's just start clicking around. And this zoning, if I'm trying to do something simple and get a approval that's low intensity or low timeline from contract to digging dirt, then I should probably do something that's going to be as of right or very close to as of right. So when I go to the city, it's minimal disruption. So that rules out anything that's currently zoned for low density or, like what City of Orlando called 2-family residential. We want to go multifamily. So I'm going to take the parameters down here, and I'm actually going to say, show me a zoning subtype that is either, well, actually, before we do this, let's change column type to a select field. That'll just make it heaps easier for me to filter. So I'll say applied where the zoning type is, multifamily, but let's also add in mixed use, and let's just put those two in, zoning and mixed use, okay? So you can see that drops out our site that we had, where Lineage is. And it's not high enough density. This is not high enough density to ever change use right now, so that's relatively safe. But what we are interested in, or what I'm interested in, is that these sites all along here are zoned what is called, I think, AC1, which is an active centre for the traditional city. So quite a lot of those sites are zoned this way. And you can see then as we go further up Mills, we get into these mixed use corridors, which are very favourable from a zoning point of view. But we don't really know what mixed use means. We don't really know what AC1 means. We still need to do a bit of digging before we settle on a thesis to study an AC1 site. So I'm going to just click on the zoning code. You can see I'm looking at these holding companies as the owner, which may or may not deter me from talking to an owner. Well, let's open up the density guideline for these mixed-use precincts and see what it actually means. So now I'm in Zonomics, which is a partner of Regrids and of ours. And we're going to come down to the density intensity bonuses and look for AC1. So I'm just going to do an Apple F situation. AC1. Okay. So this is interesting. Max density of units per acre is actually 40. So we're allowed to have up to 40 units per acre, which is not that many, but it's enough. But we have this bonus here, and max allowed by zoning district is 0.7 FAR. Max bonus is 0.3. So we can get 1 FAR. That's good. And with the bonus, we can get 80. So the question is, how do you get the bonus? Bonus shall not be considered an entitlement. Maximum available bonus may not be appropriate in all situations. Some locations, a full bonus may not be compatible. So how do we get a bonus? To implement future land use by discouraging the proliferation of urban sprawl. Well, that's good. Okay, but how do we get one, dear sir? Oh, awesome. Okay, so we want to be near public transport, which is very good. And if so, it looks like we're going to get a bonus. General requirement. Trying to read really quickly here. Okay, cool. So pursuant to 2H Chapter 65 of this code, or by zoning to the planned development district pursuant to Part 2. But, okay, so we can go look up those rules. But what I'm going to do is do a scenario here that gives us both 40 dwellings per acre and 80 dwellings per acre and see what we can come up with. But either way, there's quite a lot. AC2 would be better. I mean, look at that, 200 units per acre. That's where we want to be. So let's just start having a play. So I like AC1. Obviously, we prefer AC2. Let's go back to Giraffe and see if there's any AC2 sites around. I'll just add a filter and we'll say contains AC-2. Doesn't look like it. Not in our immediate vicinity. There are some somewhere. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Interesting. So further up Mills, over by the stadium. Where did we find this? Oh, that's on orange. Okay, by the hospital. So there's a huge Advent Health Hospital here. That makes sense. They would upzone that part. Over by the stadium, this is all new development. Epic stuff down here. But there's nothing too surprising there. So let's say AC2 is out for our investment thesis of wanting to be in Mills District. So let's try AC1. All right, so AC1 does have a nice little cluster right by all that retail we pointed out earlier. So if I pop my portfolio back on, we'll be able to see there's some cool stuff up here. Edda Boys right there, Lineage, etc. And if you've been following me on LinkedIn, you'll know that I've been talking about these 3 sites. So that's probably what we'll have a look at. But what I want to spend a second just looking at is who are the owners of these sites? Because obviously, if you have a look at, say, the Edo Boys site, which would be a great joint venture to do, which is essentially a giant car park with a shoebox at the back of it that's a 5-star restaurant. It's owned by Colonial Ventures LLC. So my guess is this is a hold play. It may be worth calling them and discussing a joint venture, in which case we could get a monster development going on. But just given the name of the holding company, it's not privately held. It's probably going to be difficult. There's probably going to be quite a lot of negotiation involved. So let's leave that one alone. Let's go back to these other smaller sites and see if we can put together a conglomeration of parcels that might start to get interesting. So I looked at this one earlier, and I can see it's owned by Wits End Holding LLC. These are commercial, they're like residential homes that have been converted to commercial use. And that tracks. There's like a tattoo parlor here. There's a couple of like smaller retail appointments up here, but nothing that's crazy. This one's owned by an actual human being, which is nice. And this one's owned by the tattoo parlor that's there. So whilst I think it's not going to be simple, nothing's ever simple, I like this collection of 3 parcels because the owners they seem, like they're going to be straightforward to negotiate with. So let's select all 3 of those. I'll just hold Shift, select them all, and turn this into a project. So see down here on my toolbar, I'm going to add this little guy here. Say create new project. It's going to say you've got more than 1 parcel selected, and I'll say yes, I know. And we'll save it. We'll call this, I don't know what we'll call this. Let's say Mills 50 multifamily. Save. All right, so at this point, I got tons of questions. I like the idea. Maybe I'll call somebody right out the gates. If you're gung-ho, you do that. For me, I want to do a little more investigation before I pick up the phone and waste anybody's time. And what I want to see is, can I make a deal work here before I call anybody? And I fully appreciate that we're at 20 minutes and I have not drawn a single thing. So I hope by this point it's been valuable. Now, I like it. Okay, this is an interesting site. And if you want to turn on the satellite, just to give you a little more context, if we drive this neighborhood, this little back road here separates Big Mills 50 district and Colonial. So we've got like separation from massive traffic, but extreme proximity. And one of the things that we might ask, particularly if we're going to go for a bonus density, is how close to public transport is it? So let's go like this, OpenStreetMap, and we'll say all bus stops. Orlando doesn't have any trains really. It has the Sunrail, but it runs from the hospital to the stadium basically. So let's just turn that down. Oh, I love it. So you can see the bus stops are really quite close to us, which is incredible. So let's just turn a lens on that layer. I want to turn these into markers. So I'm just going to grab them and all of those and add them to the Giraffe project. And then we'll close down that layer. We'll close down that app so we don't get too excited. We'll grab all of these. And you can see it's already got whether it's got a bench on it. Is it a bus stop? Yes. Who operates it? Blah, blah, blah. And what routes operate there. So I'm just going to add a marker. And on that marker, we're going to add a bus emoji. So let's go get a bus emoji. Say bus emoji. Just grab that little guy. Go, copy. Back to Back to Mills 50. We'll add the bus emoji. Okay, love that. Very cool. And maybe the route number 2. So I'm going to pull off the model. Say underneath the bus emoji, please put the route number. So it's called routes. So we'll just grab routes and bus emoji route. Okay, save marker. Oh, good Lord, it's beautiful. Look at that. That is amazing. And then maybe just to really prove our point on proximity, I'll add to these an offset of, I don't know, 700, 500 feet, something like that. So we can see. I mean, that's disgusting. It looks terrible. So I'm not going to do that. But our site is well and truly inside 500 feet from a transit spot. All right. So there are our beautiful little bus markers. I'm going to lock this layer here so that we can't stuff that up. And then let's go back to our little conglomeration. So you can see the parcel boundary is just perfectly locked in there. And first thing I want to do is just figure out like what's the as of right zoning allow. And we've already looked at the density. So AC1 gives us 40 units per acre. That's awesome. Now let's pivot and say, okay, we want to start looking at design limitations. And the big pain in the neck in design is usually parking and setbacks. So I'm going to jump into our little friend here, Zonomics, which is again, a nationwide data set. And I'm going to draw the parcel. And you see when I draw the parcel, Zonomics does the most incredible thing. It does the job of going and reading the zoning code and telling us what the ordinances are. Now, it's not perfect. There are all sorts of conditional things in zoning code, so I wouldn't say just do that and then go straight to the city. But from a starting point, it's incredible. And from a research point of view, man, oh man, it saves a lot of time. So what I've just done there, I've said, okay, we'll take that polygon and draw a 3D model. And what it's done now is it's giving me an allowable envelope to work off. And I'll just unlock that layer so I can edit it. But you'll notice there is a setback of 20 for the rear yard, but that's not displayed on the model. So let's go in and just make sure we get the allocation correct. It's putting it right now. It's saying that's the rear, which is clearly not. That's a frontage. That's a frontage. So let's change that. We'll say that's a frontage. That's a frontage. This is definitely a rear, 100%, because it's addressing residential. That means that's a rear, and that means that's a rear. Okay, and it also means that's rear. And it could be considered side, to be honest, but let's call it rear just to be really safe that we're not getting too excited on our definitions. We can always check this with the city and update our model accordingly. Thankfully, it's got a nice maximum height, but we have to remember that 0.7 FAR that we discovered and our 40 units per acre. So let's pop in here 0.7. If we're lucky, we'll get a density bonus. And then we also want to put in 40 units per acre. So we'll come back to that. 40 units per acre is not a lot. And what, out of curiosity, is 40 units per acre going to give us on this side anyway? Let's have a look. So let's do a couple of quick calculations just to see if we can make this work. So I'll say max allowable, and we'll start with the FAR calc. So we'll take the area of the site total area, and we'll multiply it by 0.7. Okay, this is according to the rules of City of Orlando. This is the maximum square footage we can build on this site as of right. Okay, so square feet. Boom. It's not many. Now, if we get our bonus, so let's duplicate that and say max square footage bonus, then it's by 1. And we'll get 22,000. Now let's do it by max dwellings. and we'll say take the 40 units per acre. So we need to get the site area. It's about half an acre. Divide it by 43,560. And then times it by 40. So we're going to get about 20 dwellings, which is really not that many. And if we get our density bonus, so we'll say max dwellings, duplicate with the bonus, it is times 80, which is where it starts to get a little more interesting. Okay, cool. So let's pause there. What have we done? We've realized that there's not much love in this site. There's a little bit of love if we get a bonus, but even then it's going to be tricky to reach 40 dwellings. It's small. It's owned by private interest, so we should be okay from a simplicity point of view. We're building as of right, so relatively quick from a hold point of view, from contract to digging ground, relatively. It's by transit, so we have a pretty good chance of upzoning or getting our density, I should say. No idea on upzoning. And at 40 units per acre, at 40 units, sorry, it's interesting. There's also this upshot of potentially reaching out to this owner and seeing if they want to work on something interesting. So let's keep going. I've not fully dissatisfied yet. I'm relatively happy with what we're learning here, and maybe from my scale of development, this is an interesting project. Oh, I got a like. How fun. Who liked my stream? How do I see that? Probably someone at Giraffe. I don't know. If you like me, thank you. I appreciate it. It means a lot. I just lost a follower. Okay, pay attention to the model. So now what I want to do is just start drawing. And what I'm going to do is just keep these metrics in the back of my mind to see how much we've physically drawn versus what we're allowed to do, and what that actually means. We also haven't considered parking yet. We're going to do some research on parking in a minute. Okay, cool. So let's grab from our design tools. My first thought is let's try and get a multifamily building on here. If we can do multifamily, we've got the height for it. We should have some density here. We could get something really interesting off the ground. So I'm just going to draw boom, multifamily building. And that multifamily building, if it's sub 5 levels, we can build it with timber, in which case it's pretty cheap. So let's go have a look at what we've done. We're already over from a dwellings point of view. How depressing is that? Even if we get the density. So let's actually do a new drawing layer. We'll call this scenario 1. And we'll pop that on. No, we want that on default, sorry. Everybody relax. We'll get this on scenario 1. Grab this, we'll base point move. Perfect. Lock that layer. Okay, so I'm back. I'm back in drawing mode, and I'm going for, let's start with 20 dwellings. So probably 3 levels of, 3 levels, kind of walk-up style garden apartment thing. We don't need a corridor necessarily. We could do this as 2 halves. That might be more interesting, particularly at 3 levels. And you could do like an alleyway in the middle, or like a courtyard sort of thing. So let's do that. Because it's, I'm thinking out loud, sorry folks, but because it is such a small area that we're working with here, we might try and do, we haven't done any market analysis. I'm going to come back to that in a minute, but let's try and do something like dropping down, no 3s. We're going to assume this is young people with no families who want to be here, just like every other multifamily project. And then no corridor, because these things can just be point loaded, right? We can just walk straight up with a stairwell at the front. And then do we want to look out over the street, or do we want to look out into our beautiful courtyard? I say beautiful courtyard, so I'm going to rip this thing around. Let's get to 10 units on one side. Okay. 12 units will be a bit cheeky. And then I'm going to go all the way to the edge, because we can get all the way to the property line with the setback there. And you notice this setback, because we have the resis here, is going to get a little trickier. So maybe I've made a poor assumption there. I think I probably have. Yeah, that's horrible, isn't it? Okay, so what if we spin it around? Are we still going to do our courtyard idea? No, I think we need a simple garden style apartment, Jimbo. What's that distance between those two? Terrible. I forgot about this setback here, folks. That's why. That distance is not even 10 feet. Yeah, okay. So scratch that. Bad idea. But you can see how fun that was to think about, right? Something different product type. We're just playing. We're just playing until we find something that works. All right, so unfortunately that means we have to do a traditional type garden building. I'm going to get rid of the end cap so that it's open. This is Florida after all. And we want to try and stick to about 20 dwellings. And getting really excited here, a bit too carried away. Let's drop it down, drop it down. Well, we could go maybe, could we go 2 levels even? Oh yeah, oh yeah, here we go. All right, I like that. So this is cool, simple, 20 dwellings. We're leaving so much room in the height department, which, whatever, that's the way it goes sometimes. And then let's come down here and see if we can park this thing in the space we have left. And no, we certainly cannot, but give it a go. We're leaving room on the table here, so let's drag that over. And we'll pop some parking up the top there, or we'll just sort of copy paste this, I guess. So what are we at? 21 per dwelling. That's probably close to okay. Oh, I got an interesting bing. Okay, so surface parked, 2 levels. It's going to be cheap as chips to build. I don't know if it really adds anything to the neighborhood. And I don't even know if people would want to live here because there's no open space. The building's not that interesting. It's certainly not going to justify the investment, but whatever. Interesting exercise. Let's do a quick market analysis. I am actually intrigued by what's renting here. So let's pop over to Zillow. Part of my thesis with this is that there's no multifamily. So mills up over Colonial. Okie dokie. Colonial. So our sites right now are up here in this AC1 district. And we need to be very careful, but I have an idea actually of what could make our little structure thing look and feel really cool. So let's see. The first thing I want to do is see, okay, is there any property here that's renting? So I'm going to get rid of these. I don't want to see condos and co-ops. I want to see family. And I don't care to see sold. I want to see what's available for rent. Not much. Not much at all. That's really interesting. There's this is all the family in here. Okay, I'm starting to like this a little bit. Let's say, what are these? Yeah, these are like, look at these. Crappy for $1,600 a month. 2 bedrooms, crikey Moses. What's this? 2 bedrooms for $3,700 a month? I guess it's a house. So you see a lot of what's being built is this split family nonsense. It's not true urban living. And if the houses were cool, it could have some character to it. I mean, that's got a little Florida vibe to it. But a lot of it is poor product. It's like malnourished product. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take some of these listings and pop them into my Giraffe model so we have a reference point when we start thinking about rents. Whoa. I need to log in. Let's log in. virtualize people. I'm going to enter a password. Oh, I guess I haven't logged in before. No. Skip. How do I... What's going on here, people? I didn't use this a lot. Okay, that's great. So I just want to export listings on the current page. Very simple tool. Drop it out as a CSV, and we're going to bring it into Giraffe. I love this tool. You know, when you're doing comp research, it can be a total mind bend to try and figure out, and very expensive to try and figure out what's renting in the area. Zillow obviously has it all available to us, what is actually on the market. I'd love to see what contracts are out there, actually executed and agreed to, but for a shorthand feasibility study, this is a fantastic way to do it. All right, so let's drop into Excel and just have a quick look at this. Look at this file. Let's say import, and just going to grab that CSV and drop it in the old upload bucket. And here we go. So what are we going to see here is a bunch of listings, or property type they are, how many square feet they are, price per living area unit. It's not that interesting. There's the bedroom count. Why did we only see 2 bedders? Did we have a filter on for 2 bedders? Yes, we did. Silly James. Let's go back and fix that. I had this silly, sorry guys, what a waste of time. Let's fix that. Boom. All right, that makes way more sense. Go. But let's get rid of, we just want apartments, condos, townhomes. Those are all relatively interesting to us. All right, let's grab that data again. Put listings on the current page. And we'll get rid of this. File, import, upload, bingo, bongo. Okay, this is the really exciting part of the live stream. Now, I've got a new file, I drag it in, import. Create a new spreadsheet. No, replace this spreadsheet. Thank you. All right, that's better. We've got a mix of product. We've got some that are blank up the top, so let's just kill them. Boom, boom, boom. Delete. And we'll just change this to address. Now, sometimes I found if the address is not very well formatted, like this, here's address, Orlando zip, whatever, it's better to mush them all together in a super address field. So let's actually change that and say this is the address field, and it equals that and a space and that and a space and that. Okay. Yes, I want it for all of them. So now we have a zip code. Giraffe will have no issue figuring out where those are, and the field just needs to be called addressed. So let's drop this down. We'll call this comps 2024, and we will download it as CSV. Perfect. So let's pop back to Giraffe. Oh, sorry, I've been showing my rental listings the whole time. Not that interesting anyway. All right, let's pop back to Giraffe. Okay, so I'm going to import a layer, create new layer. It's a vector. Grab that vector from our downloads folder, and it's called comps 2024 with all those Zillow properties on it. And boom, it's going to map our comps in the most beautiful way. There they are. And let's actually add a drawing layer. We'll call this comps just to manage it well. And on that drawing layer, let me just drop this down for a second. Yep. We will import all those comparables. And that's just going to keep our model really clean. I'll select all of that. And then let's do the same thing we did for the bus routes. We'll add a marker. And on that marker, we want the rent price per living area unit. No, rental price per month is what we want. And we also want number of beds. So we'll keep it relatively simple. We'll say price per month up the top. We don't need that. And we want number of bedrooms. And that's just going to give us a nice visual indicator of everything around. It's not super well formatted, but okay, so I like it. So let's take that math and put it into our model real quick. I'm going to say for 2-bedders, premium product, brand new build, let's call it, I want to say $2,000 a month. We could probably get more, but let's be conservative. Who knows what's going to happen with rents over the coming weeks and months and years. It takes us to get this built. So we'll go 2-bedroom, rental, let's call it 2,100. I'm being aggressive. And Orlando zoning code, 1.5 cars per 2-bedroom unit. Let's go to our 1-bedroom units. And I think we can put this up to 1,800, 1 car per dwelling. But let's just do a quick visual check. Look at that, man, it's so interesting. I'm really not sure how I feel about these comps. They're so varied. Okay, and then we're not going to do 3-bedders. Studios, I don't know if we want to change the studios that much. Let's see. 900, golly. Yes, let's change it. Let's make it 1,400. All right, so we've got our assumptions baked in from a rental point of view. We're thinking it's going to be extraordinarily cheap to build. So what I want to try and figure out now is how much total budget do we have to pay for the land? And I want to show you this because we can build in a template that resolves for this every time we do it. But I'm going to do it from scratch so you can understand my thinking. It's very Excel-like type behavior. Okay, and this particular design is a bit boring and it's super underutilizing the site. So we're right on the edge of our FAR, which is what worries me a little bit, because what would be, I think, really cool is if we said, all right, well, the flavor of this neighborhood is retail. So let's put under the building some kick-ass retail. And why is that not stacking? Oh, because I've drawn on the bloody wrong layer as usual. Okay, let's just change the layer there to scenario 1. And you could imagine, like, in my opinion, Lineage is the best coffee in Orlando versus Deeply. It's those two, right? Deeply's all the way down here in the city somewhere. So I think it's City Jefferson. It's like literally right here under this building. And, or this building here, I don't know, one of the two. There's no comparison between those two. It's like head and shoulders. Maybe what we say to old mates Deeply, why don't you come and build a rival coffee shop under here? And then to our Domu friends, let's add a freaking kick-ass Domu down here so we don't have to go all the way up to the rich neighborhood in Winter Park. And here we'll have, I think, a really cool product. However, we're going to need our bonus for it. And that's a worry. So let's just come back off here. And commercial rents, I've got no clue, if I'm just being honest. I do not know what an appropriate commercial rent would be. Trying to just get our FAR down to 1. You can see how helpful this is as you play around. I guess we could do, if we can do FAR off net rentable, we should be okay. We may actually be able to do something cool like this. And then we'll fill this with back of house lobby, which won't count towards FAR. Again, I don't even know if this is a good structure. It feels a bit silly at this point, but let's leave it as is. So we've got 20 dwellings. We're okay from a dwelling point of view. We're over from an FAR point of view. We may get an exception for that because it's going to be high quality retail. Deeply coffee here. Domu noodle restaurant here. No one's agreed to this, but this is how I would set it up. And they've already got a restaurant back there, so pretty cool. All right, let's do some financials. So what I want to look at right now, before I even think about incomes, is what's it going to cost us to build. So let's do a category of calculations called construction estimate. And our construction estimate is going to be very simple. We're going to say, go and get me the hard costs for everything we've drawn and multiply it by its gross area. So gross area is the building footprint multiplied by the number of levels in the way Giraffe calculates it. So A times B, but before we execute this, we'll call this hard costs. We're going to say, what are our hard costs? And you can see already that they're ridiculous. Here's our assumption. We're street parking everything, which actually we need to think about parking if we're going to add retail, but we'll do a deal with Domu because they've got the parking spot next door. The hard cost is going to be cheap. It's a 3-story building. There's no core. There's no elevators. I think we could get this quite low. Maybe, probably not in the 2s, but certainly the low 3s. So I'm going to put $300 in here. That may be a bit hopeful. And if you know more than I do, feel free to leave a silly comment down the bottom. And then our parking, we'll put it $0 per hour because we'll calculate it per space. And our retail, we're going to do, let's do high 2s because I want to pay for the fit out for our clients to attract them here. Okay, our tenants, I should say. So hard costs multiplied by gross area, A times B. We'll call this hard costs. It's in dollary dues. 7 mil. It's a lot. That is a lot for not a very big building. So you can see this is a dynamic expression as I drag that out. Our building gets more expensive. Why is that so high? It seems too high. Let's just go check. What is our corridor being built for? $1. And our core, also $1. Balcony, nothing. So that's all. That's good. That's what it should be. And then the retail. Oh, it's not terrible. Okay. Well, this goes to show, folks, how hard it is to make a buck in this industry right now. Okay. Well, let's keep going and just see what comes back. So what I'm going to do now is the 20 units is what kills us. The zoning, just City of Orlando, if you're listening, the zoning is what's killing us right now. If we had the density bonus, which maybe we would get, and if we had, or if we had the AC2 zoning, we could do something really interesting here. So let's just keep going with our financials and we'll prove this out. So hard costs, let's then add in a soft costs. Let's say 15% of hard costs. And that's going to cover our financing and everything like that. So we'll say A times 0.15 and $10. And again, we're just being extraordinarily simplistic here. We're nearly 10 million. We haven't even bought the land yet. All right. So that's fine. Then we'll do some incomes. We should add a contingency, shouldn't we? Let's just do a quick contingency here just in case. And we'll make it 10% of hard costs. Great. Incomes, we're going to go get those dwelling prices we popped in from our rents, times it by 12. So dwelling total price multiplied by 12, and that's going to sum it per unit to get us an annual income of nothing. Are you kidding? 20 units times by 2,000 times by 12. Yeah, goodness, it's almost nothing. It's a disgrace. This deal does not work, people. We already knew it, but now we really know it. Okay, now that's our multifamily rents. This is why nothing is happening in at the moment, people. We haven't even considered financing here, but you'll see why when we get our return on cost coming back. So multifamily rents, let's do our retail rent. And our retail rent, I am going to make an assumption that's probably way too high because I don't really know the comps in the area, and we're running out of time to do it. So I'm going to say A times $60 a square foot. Nah, it's too high. That's way too high. Let's do $20 a square foot. $60 a square foot is what commercial real estate goes for in DC. So $20 seems right. So, okay, so 800,000 is not actually terrible for an income, but we're going to do an OPEX. So let's say we want to do NOI is equal to multifamily rent plus retail rent. So A plus B. And then let's do, I don't know, let's say a 10% OPEX cost. We'll call this NOI. We don't even have a vacancy factor in here, so let's just add in, let's just make it 85%, 700 grand. So on a $10 million deal, that's a 7% return. It's not terrible, to be honest. So let's go and then have a look at this, particularly if we're borrowing money to do it. Let's do a quick residual value calculation. So what I want is the terminal value of the building. So terminal value is if we were to ever sell it, what would we sell it for? And that is NOI divided by cap rate. NOI divided by cap rate, which what are we going to say cap rate is? 7? A building like this? Maybe. I think 7's probably generous, but let's do 7 anyway. And then we're going to sub out all our costs. We'll call this residual land value is equal to the terminal value less the sum of our expenditure. $600 grand. That is not enough money to buy that land, folks. That is not enough money to buy that land. So now that we've got that, now that we've established there's no way this deal works in its current format, before we go any further, we'd probably say, and just to note, if you were doing this in Giraffe, all of this could be automated so that all you're doing is drawing that building and in 5 minutes you'd arrive there, as opposed to this painfully long hour that I've taken you on to figure out that this site doesn't work. The value here, oh, sorry, I keep looking over here, but you guys are there. What we can do now is start to play with different scenarios. And this is where I'm getting a little bit excited. So first of all, let's think about getting our bonus. So I'm going to up this to 4 levels. Have a parking problem, but that's okay. I'm going to reduce the footprint of the retail. We don't need that much retail, but we do need more parking. Why are you dropping down there? You should be stacking. Scenario 1, scenario 1. Okay, whatever. I'm going to get a car park. And we'll do it under here. And what we want is 2 levels multi. Okay. So now we're sufficiently parked. In fact, we've got too much parking, so let's just make it 1 level. That is got a better floor. We'll just override the floor here. Make it I think it needs to be 12 feet, 14 feet, 14.5 feet, 15 feet. Perfect. Okay. We'll probably get rid of this strip too, which will make everyone happy and actually get a nice sized road down here with some landscaping. And we're at 40 units. We're a bit over on the old far, aren't we? Golly dang, this is tricky on sites this size. So let's go back and see if this changes things. Okay, now we're starting to cook with some gas. So we still got to buy 3 sites and we've got to make some money. And we're not making any money right now. We are not making any money, folks, right now. I don't think this site is big enough. I think we're going to have to call Edo Boy and say, hey, I love the restaurant, but will you give us your site? And we'll pay you handsomely for it. But can we please take the concept of what we're doing here and go large? And in the last minute of this extremely long hour, I'm going to undo that little guy and undo that little guy. And what we're going to do is say, all right, let's imagine the world as though we can consume the back half of this site. Let us dream, okay? And I've just got my eye on the financials down here. We're not going to change too much. Now I want to grab, no, what have I locked? I've locked scenario 1. Lock. Thank you. Let's dare to dream. Let's do an F-shaped behemoth. Now, oh look, I can't in good conscience have a facade that long. I've been criticizing developments for long facades. So let's split it in the middle. Let's do 2 separate buildings. Split. And we'll come back here like this and we'll go split. Oop. Oopsies. I've gotten too carried away here. Let's split this too. Bring this back. Bring that. Let's just delete that. What is happening here, folks? I'm deleting the wrong things. Oh no, yeah, it is there. It's just getting too excited. Bring this back. All right, now we're starting to get somewhere. So we're keeping the same zoning assumptions. Let's check. Now our maximum allowable is, we're going to change the boundaries or edit project boundaries. Say, please make the boundary the entire thing. Yes, 80 dwellings. Okay, interesting. We still have to acquire a new site though, so that's going to be challenging. And how many dwellings are we at? 76. Oh boy, it's getting exciting. And our promise will be, if we can get the bonus, then we'll actually build this beautiful forest in here. It's just going to open up this whole thing and just make it an absolute dream for people. They'll be able to walk between Edo Boy and Lineage, all that retail, and they'll be able to walk their dogs in this park. Oh, guys, it's going to be out of control. Sensational. And look at it. It's actually kind of pretty. And if we got an architect on it to build some articulation in this facade, I think we're onto something. Now, the question is, Edo Boy there, are we below 2 FAR? One and a half, just. And we've got Edo Boy over here. We need coffee over here. I think that's part of the whole shenanigans. So let's add in deeply or something. Pop down to the dog park, have a cuppa. That, my friends, sounds absolutely amazing. All right, financials. Oh no, this is what happens. You see, the more product you build, the more land you buy, you're just spending more and more money. Doesn't necessarily make the fundamentals any better. So that's interesting, folks. In my view, this is a tough cookie to crack. And I am going to move on from this site. I've had a fun hour and I thought I could work. But at $300 a square foot, I can't even make it work. What a crime. Maybe if we adjust the renties, but even then, we're going to be reaching, aren't we? All right, well, thanks for your time, everybody. I hope that's helpful to show how I would think through a feasibility. I'm looking at the market, why I want to be in that market. I'm looking at the rents to see if it supports our product, which clearly it doesn't. I'm looking at design. What design can we fit within the allowable envelope? And that allowable envelope and the zoning controls are provided by Zonomics, credible data company. And last of all, but not least, we're trying to see how it all pencils. Does it actually give us anything in the game at all, any reason at all to do it? And at a 7 cap, it does not. At a 6.5 cap on that previous build, maybe. But even then, it's very skinny. Let's undo all the way to that 6.5 cap. Let's just see. I'm going to do infinite undo. I love infinite undo. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. Are we still at 6.5? We are. 3.8 mil to buy 3 sites. That's doable. Make 800 grand. You tell me, folks. Think we can sell it to a REIT? Probably too small for a REIT. All right. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate your time. And we'll see you next time on Feasibility Friday.